Hey everyone, Kevin here, and welcome back to my channel. So today, I wanted to talk about the nature of burnout itself and how it weirdly happens both gradually and all at once at the same time. At least it did for me. And I'm, of course, going to frame this from the perspective of my time in the classroom, since that's where I and most people watching this video probably burned out. But this applies to any career, since literally anyone can reach that point given enough time. But the reason why I kind of wanted to revisit the burnout topic is because I was chatting with a few other teachers who've been out for years like me, and they said that for them, it felt like burnout happened all at once, while others said it was more gradual. And I found that to be an interesting difference because burnout isn't something that usually happens very quickly. I've always liked calling it the death by a thousand cuts, and then you get to the point where you end up with the other idiom that something ends up being the straw that broke the camel's back. What burnout really is a long series of roads paved with your hard work and accomplishments, but full of car sized potholes that were filled with toxicity, anxiety, and depression. And the stress from constantly having to drive through those potholes taxed your physical and mental health as the years went on. Though there are plenty of other reasons, I typically point to four main things that led me to quit the teaching profession and change careers: bad administrators who consistently assassinated my character, constant exposure to student violence and disrespect from them and their parents, a lack of any semblance of work life balance, and a total absence of creativity. None of those things happened all at once, though. They built up, drained me over time, and would eventually come to a head, but the stress from all of them grew more gradually in line with the 5 or 12 main stages of burnout, depending on which metric you're using. We all start with an excessive amount of drive to be great educators. We went into the profession to do good things, be altruistic, and make a difference in the lives of students. It allowed us to kind of ignore some of those negative things the first few years in the classroom that we saw and dealt with, which naturally led to us pushing ourselves to work even harder by trying to be the Pinterest teacher and staying incredibly long hours before and after our contract to get things done. We felt that if we didn't do that for the kids, then we would be seen as bad teachers. And that's why we began neglecting, or at least ignoring, or our personal needs and hobbies. As the years went on, we all stopped doing things for ourselves as much. And we lost touch with friends and our interests because we simply didn't have the time to do them, thus forcing us to start venting frustration to get that conflict out. Even more years went by, and we ended up in denial about just how bad things were. We all started to withdraw because of the trauma, began experiencing a change in our outward behavior, felt like we had lost our sense of self and autonomy, and finally ended up with a sense of emptiness and depression. Give that enough time, and anyone will eventually reach the total mental and physical collapse that burnout really is. And that last part really can happen all at once or over a longer period of time. The year we came back from COVID distance learning was my last year, and it was for a lot of people because they too had a year from hell like I did. COVID didn't kill public education, but it made so many of us just wake up to what the profession was really like in the here and now. I mean, I already had so many years of administrators belittling me, using the evaluation system as a tool to punish and get rid of me, and never once had my back on anything. That last year, though, it reached critical mass levels of them blaming fires set in my class and assault taking place on my classroom management rather than their total refusal to enforce discipline policies. I felt isolated and alone because administrators were never on my side, instead, looking for the next thing to screw me over with. And that instance of violence wasn't isolated to that year. So many students were attacked in the hallways with blood everywhere, desks being thrown in classrooms, and kids dumping glue or other things into the eyes and hairs of other students just because they knew they'd get away with it because neither their administrators or parents were going to do anything about it. No one respected my role as their teacher and saw me instead as their professional babysitter, a moniker that really pisses off teachers because of how much it devalues them on a personal and professional level. Heck, I dropped an F bomb in class for the first time ever during that last school year because of how exasperated the kids made me. It was just a brutal year. And so many years of putting up with not only that, but the lack of balance finally started taking its toll. I couldn't just go home and turn off. I had been rewired by the job to never have the ability to turn off at the end of the day. I was always exhausted and unable to do anything outside of teaching. It took all of my time away from me, and that was again expected of me, which led to having no ability to show my creativity. I was too tired to innovate or do something fun, rather resigning myself to just giving work and telling the kids to do it. And I hate those kinds of assignments, but it was the best I could do and still keep up with all the standardized content demands, which naturally also zapped my creativity. And I'm sure everyone listening has similar stories from their time in the classroom. Just like I think most of you have that one thing which ultimately broke your back and led you to snap in another job. Mine was the administrators blaming things on me that I talked about a couple minutes ago, and I realized in that meeting that I had put up with this for so long that I was finally just done. I had nothing left and couldn't put up with the abuse anymore, and it was abuse, which is ironic considering teachers have to do yearly training on abuse. And after that, I walked out of that meeting not only leaving my classroom and the students, but my decades long career. In the end, burnout did kind of slam me all at once, but it was still nonetheless a very long and slow burn that took years to fully reach the inferno that it became to make me leave. I was already in therapy by that point for a few months because I finally admitted to myself that there was a problem, which, as we all know, is the first step toward recovery from any trauma. I began to identify the PTSD and the mental and physical anguish that had stripped me of the teacher and person I wanted to be before all that burnout began. In the end, I finally got enough of those small cuts that I wasn't able to take it anymore. I would say that I gave up, but I didn't. The system gave up on me and put me in the position in the first place. Instead of supporting me and growing those passions, they took advantage of me from day one and never let up. If anything, they increased the tempo of abuse until so many of us finally woke up to just how bad the job had become. It's why education is in such a crisis right now and why so few want to become teachers. Every job has the potential for abuse and burnout, but education is literally built upon the unpaid and disrespected labor of teachers. Without us, the system would collapse. And it already has, really. I thank my stars every day that I'm treated the exact opposite now and actually valued. It's allowed me and literally millions of others to process and grow beyond their trauma. And if you're suffering from burnout, please don't hesitate to seek help. Teachers need more therapy and support than they realize. Well, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you gained something from today's episode. If you would like and subscribe to help support the channel, that would be very helpful. But for now, I've been Kevin, and I will see you in the next video.